We have started with the state management techniques in ASP.NET. This is a very important topic in ASP.NET because it considers all aspects of managing your state whenever you are creating or deploying your applications in ASP.NET Server. So some introduction that we have seen in the previous lecture. So mostly what is the state management and how we need to maintain the state and what is the requirement for it. So these things just on a bird's eye view, we just got to learn in the previous lecture. So basically state is nothing but to maintain the user information somewhere. Okay, as it happens in the Windows application. Windows application is actually running from the same machine, so that's why you don't have to bother about every time where this particular user information is actually written or stored, because ultimately the memory is at the client side itself. Okay, because whenever normally we see that whenever you are running any Windows application, the client will be directly interacting with the operating system where this application is running. Okay, so but when we are talking about the web application, it is not the case, because the client is sitting somewhere uh, far away, maybe in a different country, and the server is located in another country. So we cannot have the entire information written every time into the server's memory, because server's memory is limited. So that's why the scalability issue will be cropped up in the web applications. So for providing the scalability, we have to remove the unnecessary parts. That means to save the information in the memory of each and every connected user. So all these they have taken into consideration. So that's why the HTTP protocol was created without the state without managing the state by itself. Okay, so it definitely got some disadvantages also. When you remove the state from the application, you need to worry about who is actually getting connected, and every time whenever any new request is coming, whether that previous request was given by this same user or that was a different user. So in that way, we need to identify the persons also, identify the clients also. So that becomes a very difficult pattern in the web applications. So to remove those limitations from the server side management, some inbuilt techniques were created by each of the technology. Suppose when we talk this ASP.NET, we have these 5 different objects created. Using those objects, we can write the information, sometimes in the client machine itself, sometimes in the server's memory address, sometimes maybe in the database, sometimes without saving anything, we can send the information. So all these possibilities are there. Okay, so let us see one by one how they actually are used and what are their limitations. Everything we will just come to know in this state management topic. Okay. So this is objects by default. One is view state, second one is query string, third is cookies, and fourth is yes, third is cookies, then session, and finally application. So each of these state management objects are having some advantages over the other, and similarly they will be having some disadvantages also. So we will see one by one with all these implementations. And whenever you are writing the code for maintaining the state in the ASP.NET, either you are applying some of these objects for your um, data saving. Maybe sometimes you are writing the data in the cookies. Maybe sometimes you are writing the information in the view state. Similarly, you are getting the information from the view state. So all these we will see in this state management topic. So first one is view state. Okay, so View state for a page or control is the cumulative property values or view of that page or control. You can access this class through control.viewState property. So, like with the case of every other control or the class, every class or control actually derived from one of the base class. Okay, so in that way we can see that control.viewState is the actual. Uh, so this is the property from which we are getting this object. We are getting this viewState object by default. So this class is the primary storage mechanism for all HTML and web server controls. You can see mechanism for all the HTML and web server controls. That means either you are writing the information into the static HTML controls or you are taking some dynamic controls like web server controls. So both these are capable to store the information by using the view state mechanism. Okay. So it stores attribute value pairs as strings associated with the control. So how it actually stores? It actually stores in a key value pairs. Key value pairs means you will be assigning with an ID and ID will be having some value associated with that. So in that way, every control can be populated with some default properties and all that information we can write into the view state. It tracks changes to these attributes only after the onInit method. So in the page lifecycle, we have discussed some different function handlers, event handlers. One of the event handler is onInit. So at that time, the page is actually loading the previous attributes so that to display the information properly. So one of the example is suppose you are filling up with a registration form. Okay, so in the registration form, you may be having the email address, phone number, first name, last name, address, mobile, this PIN code, maybe state. All this information you have saved. But upon submitting that button, some some information is still required and you didn't provided that information. So what happens, the page is actually going to the server. There at the server side, it is actually getting checked by the logic that you have provided. Maybe you have missed out some date of birth. Okay, so that date of birth field is actually uh, not available at the server side. So what it does, it simply reverts back with that information. This date of birth field is actually missing. But as you have provided other 50 or some 60 values in the given controls. Okay, 60 or 50 means first name, last name, middle name, father's name, mother's name, maybe mobile number, landline number. So in that way, you have all the information. And after sending that information, if that information is not complete, the server is actually replacing that with the original page. But the original page is not having any provided information by you. Okay, so when the first time the page is getting loaded, you are going to have a clean page in which there is no information. But as you have provided some of the information and it was sent to the server, there the server checks whether the availability of all the fields is there. That logic you have to write actually. But if it is missing with some information, it has to revert back with saying that please provide the date of birth or please provide the mobile number or please provide any other information. Okay, suppose what your 10th class marks, then what is the percentage. So those fields are mandatory and you have missed out. Then what happens if we do not have this view state? So the page is actually getting loaded as a complete blank page with whatever the information that you have supplied is completely eliminated. So that is what the problem with the state management. State management means HTTP protocol as such do not maintain state for you. Okay, so like we discussed in the previous class, basically HTTP protocol is do not actually recognizing whatever the information you have provided, so that to keep that information for the subsequent request. तो पहली बार आपने जो सबमिट किया था वो information वो subsequent request के लिए persist नहीं करेगा. It cannot maintain and it will not maintain for you. Okay, so that trick you have to play. That means by using one of these techniques. so that all the information provided by you is actually retained by the web server. Only whatever the missing information you have to simply fill up. That means आप पहली बार रजिस्ट्रेशन फॉर्म फिलअप कर रहे हैं 50 फील्ड्स है उसमें 50 में 49 फील्ड्स आपने प्रॉपर्ली एंटर किया, एक फील्ड को आपने मिस किया. बट इफ देर इज नो व्यू स्टेट मैनेजमेंट देन व्हाट हैपेंस, वो एक फील्ड के लिए आपका 50 फील्ड्स का इंफॉर्मेशन गायब हो गया. देन अगेन ऑन द सब्सिक्वेंट रिक्वेस्ट यू हैव टू फिल अप विद द 50, right from starting to the ending. Those 50 fields information you have to write again, you have to supply again कुछ एरर आया तो again आपको 50 टाइम 50 कंट्रोल्स का इंफॉर्मेशन again आपको राइट करना पड़ेगा. So in this way this is a cycle where till all the information is not being supplied, the page is going to give the error, and every time you have to supply with all the information. It is a nightmare for the end users. ये पॉसिबल नहीं है हर टाइम आपको 50 बार. कोई भी क्या करेगा, कोई यूजर पहली बार भरेगा, दूसरी बार भरेगा, तीसरी बार एट द मोस्ट फोर्थ और फिफ्थ टाइम, लास्ट में क्या करेगा वो बंद करके चला जाएगा. सो दैट शुड नॉट बी द अप्रोच फॉर whenever you are dealing with the web pages. Why this is being happened? This is being happened because lack of support for the state management in the in all the server side technologies, not only in the ASP.NET, in all the web server technologies. So that's why view state comes to the help in those scenarios. ये automatically क्या करेगा, आपने 49 फील्ड का इंफॉर्मेशन 49 फील्ड्स का इंफॉर्मेशन प्रॉपर्ली सप्लाई किया, only it has given error with the 50th field, and providing with that information that you need to supply this date of birth information, it accordingly saves all the previous information that you have supplied to the server, and वो populate करके आपको दिखाएगा. That means you are missing with that last field which is required. बाकी आपको 49 fields को again आपको supply करने की जरूरत नहीं है. And why it is happening? Because view state is actually maintaining for your side. Okay, for your side it is automatically being maintained. So it's a perfect place to store information that is used for multiple postbacks in a single web page. We have discussed that postback means whenever you are supplying the information to the page and page is getting reloaded again on the same URL, that is basically called as postback. So it's a perfect place because you are not posting that information to a secondary page. It is the same page that you want to load back, so that you want to show that information is successfully submitted, or please provide some missing information. So all that information you have to display on the same, very much same page. Okay, so that can only be possible when you are retaining this information. So that's why the view state is actually being maintained on the same page. It cannot be maintained across different pages. Okay, so how it is actually maintaining that information? Information is written in a HTML kind of control. You can see this input type is equal to hidden. Where you keep text, it will display text box. Okay, so in the normal HTML markup, when you write text here, what it displays a normal text box in which you can write some information. But when it is hidden, it is not being displayed on the page, whereas you can keep some information. So how this ASP.NET saving that information for future requests is by putting that information into this input type is equal to hidden control with this specific name. This name is __ view state. This is two underscore actually, so shown as a single underscore. So __ view state is the name of that particular control, and ID is also same, and value, whatever the value that you have provided to that particular control is actually being written in the base 64 string format. So it is an encoded format, it's not an encrypted one. It is only encoded to a base 64 string. Okay, so the view state information is simply patched together in memory. Together means you got some 50 controls. As with our example, we have seen that 50 controls are there. All this information is actually combined and it will be converted into the base 64 string format. Then it is going to written into this __ view state control as the value. Okay, so what is the advantage of having this? So the information is written in the page itself. It is not loaded at the memory, loaded in the server memory. So next time this page is actually called, first of all, the processor will take the information which is saved in the previous request, and accordingly it is going to populate that information in the all the given these particular controls. जैसे फर्स्ट नेम है तो फर्स्ट नेम का वैल्यू उसमें चला जाएगा, मोबाइल नंबर है तो मोबाइल नंबर का वैल्यू उसमें चला जाएगा, कंट्री है तो कंट्री का वैल्यू उसमें चला जाएगा. सो इन दैट वे where this information is getting populated is from this input type hidden view state control with the values which are saved from the previous request. So it can only check when you are actually doing the post back. ये post back करेंगे तभी उसको पता चलेगा. Post back means you are posting that information to the server, and again the server is getting loaded with the same page. It is not redirecting or it is not doing some another thing. Okay, so this is the view state usage, and there is a specific property that for each of the text control. Suppose you are working with a web server text control, and automatically these properties are getting created. Okay, so what they are doing is, it is actually, you can see the information written in the web server. This is for the ASP server control. Okay, so this is for the ASP web server control. So what it does, it is actually writing this information whenever the page is actually submitted on button click. जैसे आप बटन क्लिक करेंगे तो वो इंफॉर्मेशन सबमिट करता है. So what it is doing, it is actually storing this information by using the properties. The property is looking like this. There will be a get. In this get, it is actually retrieving the information from the view state text, and in the set, it is actually writing the information into the view state. तो यहाँ पे व्यू स्टेट का वैल्यू जो टेक्स्ट बॉक्स का अंदर के जो वैल्यू है वो यहाँ पे सेट होता है, एंड जब भी रीलोड करना है तो यहाँ से गेट होता है. Similarly, the font size. A text box can have many properties. One of the property is text, one of the property is back color, one of the property is font size, one of the property is font name, one of the property is border, one of the property is, in that way the text box can have multiple properties, but all that information, entire information is actually being written in this way. So all these are actually getting converted into the properties, and whenever the property is associated, you can see behind the scenes the view state is actually working to maintain that particular given state. Got it? So behind the scenes, automatically it takes care of you. It takes care of your data. So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry how about this particular data is going to be saved and how to get retrieved accordingly. So this information is automatically written and saved later for your further processing. तो थियोरेटिकली आपको समझा ये मैंने अभी तक जितना बताया था?
यस सर.
थियोरेटिकली समझा. अभी एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल के साथ मैं प्रैक्टिकली दिखाता हूँ इसको कैसे ये एक्चुअली सेव करता है. सो दिस इज द पेज वेयर this is default, this is the page. Okay, so this page this page in the last topic we have created these controls. I will delete all this information and I will take one button here and I will put one label here. Okay, so this is a label, and you can keep any name for this label maybe some value. Okay, so label value, and text can be anything, or you can simply remove this text. यहाँ पे आपको राइट साइड में टूल बॉक्स में आपको सारे प्रॉपर्टीज दिखेंगे हर एक कंट्रोल का. जैसे कंट्रोल को सेलेक्ट करेंगे यहाँ पे रेस्पेक्टिव कंट्रोल का प्रॉपर्टीज आपको दिखाएगा. जैसे बटन को मैं सेलेक्ट करता हूँ तो ये बटन के प्रॉपर्टीज है, बट ये कंट्रोल को सेलेक्ट करता हूँ तो कंट्रोल को प्रॉपर्टीज है. कंट्रोल के प्रॉपर्टीज आप देख सकते हैं यहाँ पे, फोर कलर, हाइट, whether it is visible or not, what is the weight, and what should be the border color, back color. So many properties are there. Okay, and this is a normal HTML button that I have taken, but for this example I will take one ASP.NET button because I want to write some code on this. This is the button, so I have double clicked on this. The button is there. Okay, so the button name is button increment. Button increment. Okay, so you can keep some text also here, button, and this is the value, and you can provide some additional properties also, like what should be the forecolor can be selected in this way, and what should be the background color can be some light color, yellow color. So accordingly the visual interface is being created automatically for you, whether you want to keep this as bold or not. So you can see uh, instantly it is being applied on that particular control. Similarly, this is the header value. So you can put the font size. I can keep the font size to some extra large one. Okay, and this is the way to design your particular pages. Now we want to see how this particular view state is actually operated behind the scenes. Okay, so I will double click on this. After double clicking, it will take me to the code behind page. जैसे कंट्रोल के ऊपर मैंने डबल क्लिक किया, ठीक है, तो ये कोड बिहाइंड फाइल में मुझे यहाँ पे button event handler. So this is the button name. Button increment is the button name, and click is the event handler, and this is having some common method signature, and in which I have to provide my whatever the logic that I want to show. Okay. So initially, what I will take is I will take with some integer val is equal to 0. I have initialized that. Okay. So after initializing that, what I'm going to do is view state. So this is the default object that we are having, and this is the property. Okay, so view state is having a particular property bag, and counter. So this can be with any name. Counter is equal to val. First of all, we will take this from the view state. Then after this, we are going to increment the val with 1, and then we are going to again put that view uh, values. Suppose I take this as counter. Okay, so it is, so that to remove the confusion, it is a counter, and it is a counter, and it is also counter. Okay, so what we are doing is, initially we are taking the data from the view state, and that data is actually getting stored in the counter. Counter is now being incremented, and again that counter is actually re-saved into the view state. So it is now giving an error because typecasting error is giving. As it is an integer, we have to convert this into an integer format. So that's why it is giving an error. So whatever the value that is coming in this, because basically view state is storing in the string format only. So this particular string is getting converted into the integer, and that is being converted into the that is being saved into this control, a variable actually. Okay, and initially, if view state do not contain anything, okay, if view state do not contain anything, then simply store this information like view state is equal to 0. Why we are doing this? Because on the very first time when the page loads, it will check whether the view state is available or not. If the view state is not containing anything, then we want to set with some initialization of the data. Okay, so I will explain this what I'm doing with this code. Okay. So first of all, I am going to check whether the page is actually being loaded for the first time. If it is not, if it is for the first time, that means post back is false. Post back मतलब दोबारा तीसरी बार चौथी बार पेज को कॉल करेंगे तो वो ट्रू होता है. But for the first time, the page post back is false. Okay, so that is, if that is the condition, check whether any value is available in this. If nothing is there, simply store this 0. Then what we are doing? We are simply clicking on this button, and whenever we are clicking on this button, the value is being fetched into this CNT variable. CNT is getting incremented, and CNT is again written into the view state. So this is what it is actually doing with this code. So now let us check how it is actually behaving on the web browser. And okay, everything we have written, but we are not showing that information on the control. So for that, I have to stop this. It is actually being running. You will not get to see anything because we are simply playing with the view state, but nothing is being shown on the browser. Okay, so that control, that writing the data onto the label control is what we are missing. It is taking some time because it is for the compiling for the first time. हाँ, इसको बंद कर दी मैंने. Now the name of the label control is LBL value. Okay, so what I will do is, after this incrementing, LBL value dot text is equal to what? CNT dot toString. Okay, so whether you take this one or this one, both are same. So simple is to take this one, and finally whatever is the value that is being shown on this label control. Now run this again. So nothing is there here in this label click. Okay, so next what I'm doing is I'm clicking for the first time. One is being displayed. Okay, I will click for the second time. 2 is being displayed. 3, 4, 5, and you can see whenever I click on this button, there is a post back that is happening here. Over here you can see the page is actually getting reloaded. Carefully observe here. I am clicking on increment. You can see the page is actually being loaded and the new value is coming. Again click 7, clicked 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now there should be a question like, as 12 is coming, that means somewhere the 11 is actually getting written. Okay, so where that is actually getting written, right click on this, view page source, and in that you can see input type hidden, name is equal to view state, and view state ID. These two are same actually, which are used for the JavaScript for identifying get element by IDs. Okay, so you need not worry about them. And the information is actually getting stored here. Okay, so this is what we have now in the format of 12. So this is what we have in the value of 12. Not only 12, but what should be the background color of this button? Like yellow color hai, uske upar red color hai. So all this information is actually written in this view state object. Okay, so next time when I click on this 14, okay, so when I refresh this, you can see the last part is getting changed here. It's pura change ho gaya. Again I will refresh, again I will click on this, and you have to refresh this again. The information is actually getting changed. So in that way the actual information of whatever is the previous value, इसके पहले 17 है 18 है जो भी है वो ऑटोमेटिकली, क्योंकि ये हम व्यू स्टेट के अंदर सेव कर रहे हैं, so that's why it is keeping that information in that view state bag. It is called as view state bag. And how to identify this view state? There may be n number of input types. देखो यहाँ पे input type submit है, input type hidden one more है, view state generator, event validation, बहुत सारे हैं, but main thing is this underscore view state. This is entirely about the view state actually. अभी तक हमने जितना भी किया है ये view state के बारे में ही किया है. Okay, so view state, as we have discussed, it is only maintaining the state for that page only. ये इसका पेज का नाम क्या है? default.tspx है. ये डिफॉल्ट डॉट एएसपीएक्स के अंदर ही चलेगा। सपोज मैं अगर यहाँ पे इसको स्टॉप करके व्हेन आई एम गोइंग टू क्रिएट अनदर पेज, यहाँ पे मैं दूसरा एक पेज क्रिएट करूंगा, वहां से इसका वैल्यू मैं अगर गेट करूंगा तो वो काम नहीं करेगा। So that means the view state is meant for a single page. The view state is meant for a single page only. It cannot be available for multiple pages. जैसे आपके वेबसाइट में 10 पेजेस है, 10 पेजेस के लिए ये वैलिड नहीं है, जिस पेज में क्रिएट किया है उसी पेज के लिए वैलिड है। बिकॉज when you want to refer this counter property of the view state from a different page, उसको ये वैल्यू है, उसको ये प्रॉपर्टी है करके भी पता नहीं रहेगा, बिकॉज इट इज एक्चुअली क्रिएटेड फॉर दिस पेज एंड उसी पेज के लिए एक्सेसिबल है। उस पेज के बाहर में उसका कोई भी स्कोप अवेलेबल नहीं रहेगा। इट शुड बी क्लियर इन द माइंड। ओके, देन सेकेंड वन इज, ये अभी ऑटोमेटिकली ये जो कर रहा है, ऑटोमेटिकली ये कर रहा है, प्रॉपर्टी ऑटोमेटिकली व्यू स्टेट में पुट कर रहा है एंड गेट से वो रिट्रीव भी कर रहा है। So that is how we have seen with the implementation. Okay, so view state में हमने ये भी चेक किया कि कैसे ये एक्चुअली इंफॉर्मेशन को स्टोर कर रहा है, इंक्रीमेंट कर रहा है और रिट्रीव भी कर रहा है। एवरी नो सेकंड वन इज क्वेरी स्ट्रिंग। ओके, so what is a query string? For example, if you take the Google, suppose मैं Google के ऊपर एक क्वेरी करता हूँ। क्वेरी मीन्स what is this .NET, something like that. Okay, मैंने जैसे ही क्वेरी किया, okay, so what is .NET framework, you can see the query is actually sent using a query string। जो क्वेश्चन मार्क के बाद जितना भी आपको डेटा आ रहा है, source is equal to this, it is identifying something, then along with this the data and actual query, so long string it is actually creating, the Google is actually creating। So why it is like so? इसके advantages, disadvantages, everything we will come to know after this particular discussion of this query string. Okay, so query strings looks like the URL plus whatever the information that you want to attach to that particular URL. So that is called as query string. Okay, so whenever there is any URL, for that URL, if you are putting, if you are adding, because URL का यहाँ तक खत्म हो गया है, ये URL part है, but after that URL you are keeping, you are adding some information by putting a question mark, then some identifiers, rest of the data is coming like this, then it is called as query string. The advantage of the query string is that it is very, very lightweight and it actually does not store any information either on the server or on your browser। ये कहीं पर भी store नहीं करता, but it puts that information appended to the actual URL। ये जो URL के साथ additionally हम append करके information को send करते हैं। So the receiving page has an easier time working with the query string. It can receive the values from the query string dictionary collection exposed by the built-in request object. Okay, अब ये इसको request करेंगे, यहाँ पे देखो record ID is equal to 10, mode is equal to full, and while we want to retain this record ID, we want to fetch this record ID. How to request that? You have to call by using the request dot query string and put this identifier, and then accordingly whatever the value that you have kept, it will be stored। जैसे 10 वहां पे सेंड किया तो 10 यहाँ पे मिल जाएगा। Okay, so that is how we can actually have this query string implemented। Query string is actually the information which we want to append to our end URL। ये URL के साथ हम जो भी अटैच कर रहे हैं एंड उसको सेफली अटैच करने के बाद इंफॉर्मेशन को रिट्रीव कर सकते हैं। सो दैट इज कॉल्ड एज क्वेरी स्ट्रिंग। एंड नाउ कमिंग टू द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ द क्वेरी स्ट्रिंग, वी हैव सीन दैट it is a lightweight and it does not burden the server, so that is the main advantage of that। Then considering the limitations, information is clearly visible है, क्योंकि मैंने यहाँ पे जो सेंड किया है, so this is clearly visible to the user as well as middleman। ओके, सो क्लियरली जैसे मैंने क्वेश्चन क्या किया, ये भी आप पढ़ सकते हैं यहाँ पे, व्हाट इज .NET फ्रेमवर्क। यहाँ पे मैंने क्वेश्चन टाइप किया so that entire information is clearly visible to all the traffic examiners, जो भी middleman है या आप हो, clearly visible. So that is one of the limitation. This is first limitation. So anyone can easily eavesdrop on your information. Second one is enterprising user might decide to modify the query string and supply the new values. How this can be done? SNK.NET framework. लेकिन ये सर्वर को जाने के पहले मैंने क्या किया, यहाँ पे रिप्लेस कर दिया व्हाट इज ASP. ओके, तो आपने .NET फ्रेमवर्क दिया, बट मैंने क्या किया, व्हाट इज ASP करके टाइप किया, एंटर किया. नाउ सी द रिजल्ट. नाउ इट इज एंटायरली गिविंग द डिफरेंट रिजल्ट्स. एंड ये जो क्लाइंट ने जो दिया है .NET फ्रेमवर्क करके, उसको एंड रिजल्ट मिल रहा है व्हाट इज ASP. सो विच इज समथिंग रॉन्ग. उसका जो टारगेट क्वेश्चन के लिए आंसर नहीं मिला, कोई दूसरा ही मिला. बिकॉज जैसे आपने .NEट फ्रेमवर्क किया या ASP किया, एंड मिडिल मैन ने क्या किया, चेंज किया इन्फॉर्मेशन को, एंड अकॉर्डिंगली द सर्वर इज गेटिंग द रिक्वेस्ट लाइक व्हाट इज XML, एंड नाउ यू कैन सी व्हाट इज XML का रिजल्ट आया है. सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज नॉट सेफ टू यूज फॉर द secure and confidential information if you want to send to that server. Okay, so this is one more limitation. Getting it or not? तो मैं एग्जाम्पल के साथ मैं आपको एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूँ. इट इज एक्चुअली क्लियरली विजिबल. एज दिस इज विजिबल, एनीबडी कैन मॉडिफाई कर सकता है करके आपका जो इंटेंडेड रिजल्ट है वो आपको नहीं मिलेगा. क्लियर? सो दैट्स व्हाई which your program won't expect and cannot protect against. So that's why आपको प्रोटेक्शन के साथ, आपको कॉन्फिडेंशियल डेटा के साथ ऑपरेट करना है. So this should not be the ideal choice. And one more limitation is there. Many browsers impose a limit on length of URL only for 1 KB or 2 KB. That means at the max IE है तो 1024 कैरेक्टर्स तक ही वो सेंड कर सकता है. This information is not more than some 1000 कैरेक्टर्स के ऊपर ज्यादा ये सेंड नहीं कर सकता. That is the limitation. Yeah, and this is browser to browser dependent also. ऐसा नहीं है कि हर ब्राउजर 1024 करता है, कोई ब्राउजर 2048 भी सपोर्ट करता है. ओके, सो दैट मीन्स it depends on the browser capability to how much information you can actually send by using this query string, and you cannot place a large amount of information in the query string. So that is one more limitation. So with these limitations, we have some restrictions of how we can actually send that information to the end server. Okay.